Pathways are actually helpful to students to smoothly get into the universities with extra support.
These little things that we do within the pathway improves their success.
Does pathway increase the cost of the students? I mean, I know we discussed that it's going to take them the same amount of time.
That first year.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some extra cost, but we offer really generous scholarships.
Pathways are actually helpful to students to smoothly get into the universities with extra support, even if they don't have their A-level scores as good as they would have expected them to be. They can still get into the universities without having to repeat their exams through the pathway entries, considering they are much lower compared to the direct entries. And then the university provides you with extra support through into, of course, and then it helps you to transition into year 2 of your university, allowing you to choose whatever course you want. So actually, pathways are kind of a blessing, I say, to all the students that come to us for counseling, because they might not be aware about how they work and everything, but when we tell them about these type of programs, they actually realize that they actually help them to get into their desired university.
Exactly. And it's a blessing for the parents as well.
Yeah.
Because the parents are putting a lot of money in.
Right.
And oftentimes when their child gets to the US, they're in a foreign country and they need that support. They don't realize like how useful it is to have everything set up for when you arrive. We have a different orientation. That's 1 week before the university's orientation.
Yeah.
Just to get them extra acclimated to
Wow.
the university environment. So these little things that we do within the pathway improves their success.
Great. Does pathway increase the cost of the students? I mean, I know we discussed that it's going to take them the same amount of time to complete their bachelor's, or if they're going for a graduate pathway to complete their master's. But does the first year as a pathway is more costly compared to direct entry bachelor's?
Not significantly.
Yeah.
There is an add-on cost because we are providing so much support. There's
Yeah.
extra classes. So
Right.
you have to imagine they're getting extra classes over and above what they normally get.
Okay.
And they're getting extra support from our team. They're getting more academic advising, tutoring, support all throughout that first year.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some extra cost, but we offer really generous scholarships.
Scholarships
too.
as well, yeah.
So there's definitely a way for those students and those parents who feel that first year might be a little more difficult and need that additional scholarship. We'll definitely look and we'll work very closely with the PI to see if that student's eligible for a scholarship.
Right. So that means pathways programs also have scholarships as well.
Yes.
I mean, the reason why I picked this topic up is because in Bangladesh, a lot of students and their parents think that if the student hasn't done as well in their high school or A levels or the HSC, as they call it in the local curriculum, if they haven't done as well, they might not be eligible for good scholarships. But in pathways, as long as you are kind of meeting the entry requirements, considering the generosity of the university, that the students can land a good amount of scholarship that may cover up the extra cost that they might have had to cover.
Yeah. So just, not only do you get the scholarship on the pathway, so students who come through the pathway will be eligible for a scholarship.
Yeah.
But if you do well on your pathway, we
Yeah.
have a progression scholarship.
Wow.
And so then those students who, like you said, did not think they have any chance to get a scholarship because maybe their marks wasn't so strong,
Yeah.
can come through the pathway, get a scholarship. While they're on the pathway, they can perform well, demonstrate that they can perform up to a 3.0, a 3.2.
Yeah.
And then year 2, year 3, year 4, they will get scholarships
Wow.
on those years as well.
Right.
And we also have some partners like an Oregon State University, a St. Louis University, and a Drew University. They actually give guaranteed scholarships across all 4 years. So a student, if they get an offer to the pathway, they're getting a guaranteed scholarship with that offer from year 1 to the time they graduate.
Great. So it's not like that pathways are for weak students who are not gonna get scholarships. It's actually like for those students as well who want scholarships but for some reason could not do well in their A levels. So it's another chance for them. It's like a second opportunity.
Yeah, I think, our motto is we want to give everybody the equal opportunity to be successful.
Right.
And we want to give people access to very good education. And to give them access, scholarships and pathways is a great way to give them access. And it gives people that more equal approach. Even if you didn't do great in high school,
Yeah.
here's your chance.
Yeah. That's great. We already talked about the entry requirements a little bit. So you mentioned that students having a 2.5 in their high school can also get into the undergraduate pathway programs, right? So that's like an HSC 2.5 from the Bengali curriculum. And if a student has A levels, I think 2Ds are more than enough
Yeah.
to get into a lot of universities for your bachelor's. You don't have to repeat your exams. So that's the entry requirement. For the English proficiency, you mentioned even a 4.5 in IELTS or a 5 in IELTS also works, but Duolingo is also accepted, I think.
Yes, Duolingo is widely accepted
Yeah,
across all of our partners.
Right.
So, you can, I believe our Duolingo is going to come in around 80 or so.
Right.
So 80 to 100 is what we typically take. I know most universities are going to look for like 100 to 120, right?
Yeah.
So about 20 points lower than you would need for direct entry.
Wow. Right. So if we talk about the visas in general now, I mean, a lot of students or the parents, sorry, think that the visas aren't coming in and it's a challenging time considering the situation. But luckily, we have had a few successes recently, and I think it's not as bad as it was previously. How do you think students should approach their visa interviews considering the university admissions are done?
Well, I think, you always want to start by going to a good university. And our Into portfolio of universities are great universities.
Right.
Universities that, most visa consulars recognize.
Right.
So, starting with the strong university is going to be first. The next approach is, being prepared. And one of the great things with our pathway programs and Into is that we provide a service called PASS, Pre-Arrival Student Support
Okay.
and Success.
Right.
And so what we want them to do is we'll talk to them. Do you have all your paperwork prepared? Do you know why you chose this university? Do you know why you chose this location?
Yeah.
Really basic questions, but students should really know that because the visa interview is so quick.
Yeah.
Sometimes less than 1 minute.
Yeah.
And you really need to have your paperwork prepared. You need to be able to clearly articulate why you chose this university.
Right.
So we'll help support that. I understand, there's no guarantees when it comes to U.S. visas, and there's always the consular can be quite intimidating. We try to make that experience as least painful as possible and prepare people for that
Right.
visa interview.
Great. I think we've covered almost everything in regards to the pathways and the direct entries. I hope viewers who were listening and will be listening to this session have a good understanding of the pathway programs and how it works and how many universities are under the Into umbrella as far as the US is concerned. সো আপনারা যারা শুনতেছেন আপনাদেরকে যদি আরেকটু আমি ইয়ে করে দিই, আইডিয়া দিয়ে দিই যে ইনটু পাথওয়েজ বেসিক্যালি স্টুডেন্টদেরকে হেল্প করে তাদের আন্ডার গ্র্যাজুয়েশন এবং তাদের মাস্টার্স ইউনিভার্সিটির অ্যাডমিশনগুলো করানোর জন্য। আপনাদের যদি ভালো গ্রেডস নাও থাকে বা আপনাদের ডিজায়ার্ড কোর্সে যদি না এসে থাকে, আপনারা তারপরও কোনো রিপিট করা ছাড়াই এই পাথওয়ে প্রোগ্রামসগুলোর মাধ্যমে ইনটুর যে বেসড ইউনিভার্সিটিস আছে যেরকম ইনটু সাফক, ইনটু হফস্ট্রা, ইলিনয় স্টেট ইউনিভার্সিটি, অরেগন স্টেট ইউনিভার্সিটি, ড্রু ইউনিভার্সিটি, সো অন অ্যান্ড সো ফোর্থ, আরও অনেকগুলো ইউনিভার্সিটি আছে। এইগুলোতে আপনারা স্মুথলি ইউনিভার্সিটি ইয়ার 1 প্রোগ্রামে এন্টার করতে পারবেন, উইচ ইজ বেসিক্যালি আ ইউনিভার্সিটি লেভেল 1 প্রোগ্রাম বাট উইথ এক্সট্রা সাপোর্ট সো দ্যাট আপনাদের যে ল্যাকিংসগুলো আছে ওগুলো কভার আপ হয়ে যায়, অ্যান্ড দেন আপনারা স্মুথলি ইয়ার টুতে উঠতে পারেন। এবং এই প্রোগ্রামসগুলোতে আপনারা স্কলারশিপসও পাবেন। ইটস নট লাইক যে এই প্রোগ্রামগুলো যেহেতু পাথওয়ে, এটাতে স্কলারশিপ নাই। আম, ভালো পরিমাণে স্কলারশিপ পাওয়া যায় যেগুলো দিয়ে আপনাদের অনেকটুকু খরচ কভার হবে। যেহেতু এক একটা ইউনিভার্সিটিতে এক এক ধরনের স্কলারশিপ, আই থিঙ্ক আপনারা যদি আমাদের অফিসে এসে আমাদের এক্সপার্ট কাউন্সিলারদের সাথে বসেন, তারা স্পেসিফিক্যালি প্রত্যেকটা ইউনিভার্সিটির এক্সপেন্স এবং স্কলারশিপ এবং এন্ট্রি ক্রাইটেরিয়া আপনাদেরকে অনেক ভালো করে বুঝিয়ে দিবে। সো ইউনিভার্সিটিতে ঢোকা ইজ নট দ্যাট বিগ অফ এ ডিল এনিমোর থ্যাঙ্কস টু দিস পাথওয়েজ। ইংলিশ প্রফিসিয়েন্সিতেও অনেক বেশি যে হাই স্কোর লাগবে তা কিন্তু না। উই হ্যাভ আইএলস, উই হ্যাভ পিটি, দুইটারই টেস্টিং আমাদের পাই সেন্ট পাই একাডেমিতে, পাই ইন্টারন্যাশনাল এডুকেশনে হয়ে থাকে। অ্যান্ড দেন অনেকে ডুওলিঙ্গো দিতে চান, সেই অপশনটাও আছে। লাস্টলি উই ডিসকাস দ্য ভিসাস as well. It's quite challenging these days, but good days are gonna hopefully be back, considering we have gotten few successes in the recent past, and students need to be prepared for the visa. um, as long as your target, your approach is good, hopefully there's a good chance that you will land your visa for the United States. So having discussed all that, I thank you very much for coming all this way and discussing these options with us. As far as Into is concerned, I hope that students who will be listening to this podcast will have a good understanding about Into in general and the pathway programs, and hopefully they will be rushing to our offices to discuss about the universities.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Pi International. I'm
Yeah.
very happy that Into works closely with you guys. And, our university partners really, really are looking forward to welcoming more Bangladeshi students to the USA.
Thank you so much.